I suppose that some people would look at Psalms as being kind of like a hymn book that we might have or used to have a few years ago, where you'd have a set of hymns that are just organized almost randomly, alphabetically, or just an assortment. I don't think the Book of Psalms reflects that. The Book of Psalms has evidence of structure at the level of one psalm back to back with another, and you'll see connections between them. You get sequences of psalms, so from Psalm 107 to 118, there's a sequence and a structure there. There's a collection with the Psalms of Ascent, it's like 120 to 134. So you get these collections of Psalms, 93 to 100, and so on. And then those collections seem to be collected into books. So we have 5 books of Psalms, which will be marked in our Bibles. And then I think even at the macro level, the whole book, there's a sense of structure to the whole, which very simply, I would say is introduction, Psalms 1 and 2. So we get the wisdom psalm right at the start, the contrast of the righteous man who's responsive to the word of God, and then the wicked who are responsive to each other, which sets up the whole context, followed by Psalm 2, which is very messianic, pointing us straight to Christ and saying, he's the issue. Kiss the Son. He's the one that we need to be looking for, responsive to. And then with those 2 psalms as an introduction, the story then begins, if you like. There's then a sense of progression. It's not linear and strict or a plot even, but there's a sense of progression that real life doesn't feel like Psalm 1. And so there's struggles, there's difficulties, there's challenges, and we feel that as we read through the Psalms. Once you get into the 40s, 50s, 60s, it's really intense. Psalm 73 is the midpoint. And so I'd look at the first 2 Psalms as an intro. Once you get to Psalm 73, you're at the hinge. With Asaph, even within the Psalm itself, he's struggling. He's feeling like, I'm going to quit. I can't cope with this. Or my worship of God is in vain. And all the wicked are prospering, and this is empty. And he'd almost gone over. And then he comes into the sanctuary of God. And suddenly everything changes. And his perspective changes. And so the psalm itself is kind of like a sort of a V shape where it's all depressing and discouraging, and then it turns, and suddenly it's not him that's slipping, it's them. It's not their good that is permanent, it's the good of knowing God, and there's nothing that he desires beside God. And suddenly there's this hope and this life in 73 that I think then continues, generally, not always in every single psalm, but there's a general trend upwards in the second half of the book of Psalms, with some really key moments, some hope, and so on. Once you get to the end, Psalms 145 to 150, it's just like a symphony, just a praise celebration at the end. So I think there's a structure to the whole. I wouldn't press that too hard, but I think it's worth reading through with that in mind and just seeing that sense of introduction. Things get worse. There's a turn in 73, and then there's the celebration at the end. And once we put Christ kind of in our lenses, once we're looking for Christ all the way through that, he starts to make sense of that for us. So it really is the book of the Messiah, the hymns of the Messiah, but there's a sense of structure there.